New World is finally releasing its first expansion over 2 years after its initial launch, Rise of the Angry Earth. It's an interesting name choice, I know. And honestly, from what they revealed in terms of expansion features, it looks really good. From massive updates and reworks to systems characters interact with within the game, changes to Eternum, and even mounts. There's definitely tons of reasons to be excited as a New World player right now, and maybe even more reasons to give the game another try. But let's take a look at the upcoming additions and changes to the game through the expansion, and we can decide for ourselves, will the expansion be a success, and will we play it? And of course, I feel like we need to start off with the fact that we are finally getting mounts in New World. And this is just huge, and for so many reasons. Obviously, mounts, it means we're gonna be able to get around faster without using the waypoints, just general convenience. But when it comes to New World, I think there's something actually more important behind the scenes when it comes to mounts than just getting around faster. The amount of people I have spoken to that do not want to come back to the game simply because there is not mounts is crazy. In my new video where I spoke about coming back to New World after not playing for a long time and seeing all the improvements, the amount of comments I got just stating they just weren't interested in coming back because of no mounts was substantial. Now, to be honest, I'm going to assume that these are a lot of people that have not played since launch or in those first few months, because back then, yeah, the game was pretty rough to get around. It was a lot of walking. And obviously since then, and as I see playing the game nowadays, there's a lot more freedom to just kind of use the waypoints and teleport around as you need. The resource necessary to use and teleport around the map is not nearly as restrictive. However, if you haven't come back and tried New World again recently, you can be completely forgiven for thinking, I need a mount to have fun in this game. Getting around takes too long. And I get why they did this off the start. They did it to make the world feel bigger, but in the end, it kind of just felt tedious. And unfortunately, in New World's case, you only get one chance to make a first impression, and I think that's just how a lot of people think of the game now, almost like a walking simulator. But no matter the reason why people said they needed a mount to play New World, the fact of the matter is, they'll be here next month. And if that truly was the barrier to entry when it came to New World for you, then that's gone now. And in terms of what the mounts are actually going to be, it looks like we'll be getting horses, dire wolves, and lions to choose from, with all of these having different customizable equipments you can put on them to make them look a little bit different, and a name you can set for them. And alongside the mounts, we're actually going to have the new riding trade skill, and by leveling this up, you'll be able to earn increased speeds, buffs, and then higher tier consumables for you and your party. And whether or not there was a plan to ever actually put mounts in New World, I think it's important that the developers recognize the fact that they just needed to do it. It's important for the health of the game that all these players who just want to have mounts don't feel like they can't play the game because of it. And honestly, with such a large vocal group of people asking for mounts for literally years now, I think it's great that New World is finally going to be introducing them. Sure, it'll be convenient, but I'm just glad to see that all these people who haven't been wanting to play the game simply because there haven't been mounts be able to comfortably get back into it. Because when it comes to MMOs like New World, a bigger player base is a healthier player base. Of course, as with any new MMO expansion, there should be a bunch of new ways to progress your character even further. And with New World, this is no exception. We're going to see our character's max levels increase from 60 to 65, a max gear score of 700, and new attributes to help power up our builds. On top of that, we're going to see all trade skills boosted up to a max of 250 rather than 200, with obviously new items and resources to gather and craft. Then lastly, they mentioned there's going to be a new faction quest with a new actual faction tier loaded with what they call, quote, desirable gear and items. And yeah, honestly, I think this all makes sense. I think they do need to raise level cap. It's interesting they went with 5 instead of 10, but hey, it works. And then an increase to the cap on gear score and trade skills makes complete sense. Obviously, we want to be able to still progress those things when we get into expansions, so they're going to boost those up to 700 and 250 respectively. The one thing I think really sticks out as a big positive in terms of a change of a system is the way gearing is going to work going forward in New World. As of now, everyone at max level is really operating under the expertise system to get their gear score as close as they can to 600. I believe this system is super controversial. I don't think most people really like it. The more experience I get with it nowadays, the more I don't really like it. And I think it's a big reason why a lot of people really enjoy leveling up to cap in New World and then kind of fall off at the end. That being said, luckily the expansion is going to be doing away with this system completely. No more expertise. It seems New World will be going back to the old tried and true MMO trope of you kill harder enemies, you get better gear. And for the most part, I don't think anyone has an issue with that. So I'm a big fan of this change, and I think a lot of other people will be too. When it comes to what people want from their MMO endgame, I think a lot of people would rather just have varying degrees of difficulty where the content can get really hard and give really good loot, rather than a system where the content is just kind of like, not that difficult, but it rewards you for doing it a bunch of times and how much time you're willing to spend grinding and doing repetitive things. I think gone are the days of people wanting systems that reward time over effort and skill. So I think this is a big move in the right direction for New World and their endgame content, and a lot more people will actually stick around after they hit cap. On top of the increased gear score and the new way of actually getting higher level gear, there's a new gear rarity coming out as well called artifacts. This is really just a new and more powerful tier of weapons and armor, which will then allow you to complete quests to unlock the 6 perks attached to that artifact piece of gear. And apparently one of these will be unique and will change the playstyle of your entire character, so it sounds pretty cool. Hopefully we don't end up with some like World of Warcraft, the Battle for Azeroth, Azerite gear type of system, but you know, we'll see how it pans out. And hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people really like the expertise system. I know you guys will let me know down in the comments. We're also gonna be seeing the Flail joining our repertoire of weapons, and this seems to be more of a nuanced weapon choice than I kind of thought at first glance. So let's take a look at it. So of course the Flail is a melee weapon, right? But it has a bit of an extended range melee, so it's not full range, but it can reach further than most of your melee weapons. And it actually seems to be focused for support and tank roles. I just assumed this was for pure damage dealing, but I was wrong. It'll be heavily focused on support and tank roles and really be doing a lot of buffing and debuffing. Another unique aspect of the Flail is that you can actually use it with a shield. Not only that, but there's apparently several Flail passives and upgrades that function differently based on the type of shield you're using. This, alongside the extended melee range, the use of magical AoEs, and all attacks having buffs and debuffs, I think the Flail is going to be a really unique playstyle. And honestly, the Flail diversity and playstyle variations seems so cool. I almost want them to go back and do this with all the older weapons. Who knows? Maybe that's in the future. With the changes to the endgame gearing system, as well as the inclusion of now the Flail, I think how endgame content groups are formed is going to be very interesting, and we're definitely in for a bit of a shakeup here. I think the moral of the story really here is just that the endgame and New World needed a revamp and kind of a rework, and that's what we're going to be getting with the expansion come October. With the Rise of the Angry Earth expansion, we will actually be getting a new zone to participate in new events in. What's interesting though is the way they went about implementing this new zone into the game. Instead of just adding a random piece of new land that is just all of a sudden randomly discovered or something, or a new layer above or below, instead they're going to be revamping and reworking the first light starting zone and transitioning it to the Elysian Wilds. Now, tons of other games have done this before, so why is it an interesting choice for New World? I think what's interesting is their zone of choice. There's definitely been a lot of people who have started in First Light, and now they're going to see that zone kind of taken away from them. To a lot of people, their first zone is pretty special to them, so it could be kind of interesting to see how people react to this. But personally, I think this was the right choice. And I say this for two main reasons. They actually said in their developer interview that they chose this zone based upon a heat map of how many people were visiting there or spending time in this zone, and it just happened to be on the lowest end. But beyond that, I think New World has to be very careful with the amount of new zones it introduces into the game without recycling the old ones. This is kind of a New World specific problem where the worlds are only so big. With a cap of 2,000 players per world, you need to be very careful with how much you're spreading them all out across the world. If expansion after expansion, they keep adding new zones and new area to explore, while that's great, that then means that there's more land with the same amount of people spread across it. And in MMOs, you really want to see people out in the world to feel like it's alive. So if you're spreading everyone too thin, all of a sudden it's going to feel very dead out and about. So while I understand this might be your favorite zone or something and it might be frustrating, I think this is just really how they need to go about it, and they did the right thing here. Within this new zone, there's going to be the new expedition, the Savage Divide. There's not too much out on this right now, but we know it's called the Savage Divide, and it's going to be in the Elysian Wilds. There's the addition of the new Heart Rune ability, Primal Fury. This basically doubles you in size and turns all of your light attacks into like a swiping melee claw attack. And then your heavy attacks is going to be like a leaping pounce ability. So it basically kind of turns you into like a wild animal. And obviously there's going to be more changes coming with the expansion than what I've mentioned here today, but I really just wanted to cover today the big topics that I think the most people are going to care really strongly about. Obviously, number one, the mounts. That's huge for a lot of people. Number two, the new gearing system at level cap, which seems like it's going to be a lot more engaging and a lot less grindy to keep people more happy at the end game. And then number three, the way they've reworked in the new zone and kind of the events and what's going to be happening inside of it. And personally, I'm thrilled to see what they're doing with this. I mean, they've definitely taken a lot of the player feedback and tried to implement it as best they could. Obviously, it's all just talk right now. We need to really see how it's implemented and how it works out in the end. But will I be playing the expansion? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm still playing New World these days right now, and I'm having a great time. So I'm excited to see what's coming in the expansion. I mean, sure, it's got a bit of a goofy name, Rise of the Angry Earth, but even just in the base content these days, I'm very impressed with how much they've improved the game and seem to be continuing to do so going forward. So I'm looking forward to see what they can pull off here with their first big expansion. And I know some people are upset that it's $30, but I think that's kind of crazy. I mean, the game thus far has only been a one-time purchase, no subscription fee, and they're doing their first major expansion and it's $30. I think that's completely fair. Not only that, you've gotten all the content over the past 2 years that's come out that's just been completely free. So I think $30 is more than fair. And if you're expecting it for free, I'm not really sure what to tell you. But either way, as always, guys, I appreciate you tuning in, watching all the way to the end. Make sure to come check me out over on Twitch. I'll leave that link down below in the description. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more of me. And until next time, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Peace.